Loyalty is a lie. Dependence is a weakness. In a world where alliances crumble and trust is currency easily forged and easily spent, the only true path to power is to stand alone. Today, you will learn how to seize victory when no one stands with you, and why solitude is your deadliest weapon. Observe the world as it truly is, a stage of betrayal, ambition, and unseen knives. Those who rely on others are shackled by the very human frailties they fail to anticipate: fear, envy, and deceit. Yet, within the calculated mind of the lone strategist lies freedom. To walk alone is not to be isolated, but to embrace clarity of purpose, the sharpness of decision unburdened by sentiment. Here, we explore the art of solitary dominion, how to navigate a world built on shifting loyalties and emerge unchallenged, unbound, and unstoppable. Do you believe in loyalty? In the comforting lie that someone will stand beside you when the storm of ambition rises? Consider the fate of Julius Caesar, surrounded by senators who swore allegiance yet sharpened daggers in silence. Trust, my friend, is a currency far too easily counterfeited. Those who place faith in others, who believe in the warmth of shared purpose, are walking toward the knife without noticing its gleam. History is littered with the corpses of the trusting. Take Brutus, a man of intellect and idealism, who embraced Caesar as both mentor and benefactor. And yet, when ambition whispered in the shadows, Brutus acted. The hands that once held Caesar's banner now delivered betrayal. Was it sudden? No. Betrayal always waits quietly, invisible, until the moment it strikes. Alliances are fragile not because men are cruel, but because men are predictably self-interested. Ask yourself this: who among those you call allies would hesitate to betray you if their gain outweighed their loyalty? Psychology tells us the same lesson as history. Humans are wired for self-preservation first, advancement second, and sentiment a distant third. When fear or desire intervenes, your trusted companion becomes an agent of your undoing. Do not imagine exceptions. You are not the sun around which loyalty orbits. You are merely a participant in a coldly competitive system. Now, consider the chessboard. A king surrounded by pawns does not rely on their devotion, he relies on the clarity of his strategy. Every pawn is expendable. Every knight, bishop, and queen is capable of betrayal. The prudent player does not invest in loyalty. He invests in control. He understands the patterns of human weakness and designs contingencies for every possible treachery. Can you claim the same foresight in your ventures, in your relationships, in the battles of influence you face daily? Even in commerce, the lesson repeats. CEOs who trust partners blindly fall victim to backroom deals and whispered conspiracies. Military generals who rely on the allegiance of untested commanders find themselves surrounded and cut off, betrayed by the very men they praised publicly. Trust is the seed of vulnerability, dependence on others, a slow-acting poison. And yet, society tells you to seek it. Schools teach collaboration. Motivational speakers chant synergy. But beneath these noble words lies the uncomfortable truth. Survival belongs to the one who understands that alliances are temporary, trust is transactional, and power is solitary at its apex. Observe your own circle. How many nods of agreement mask concealed envy? How many smiles hide opportunistic calculation? The human mind, under the pressure of ambition, reveals its self-interest with ruthless predictability. The friend who cheers your rise today may covet your throne tomorrow. History is a mirror. Psychology is the lens. Both reflect a singular, brutal reality. The illusion of allies is far more dangerous than the reality of solitude. And yet, this truth need not paralyze you. Recognizing it, embracing it, transforms you. To walk alone is to shed illusion. to place your strategy above sentiment, to see betrayal coming before it comes, to act with certainty when others hesitate in loyalty's shadow. Do not cling to handshakes or promises. Study them, understand them, anticipate them. Build contingency upon contingency. Let your independence be the armor that shields your ambition. Imagine yourself in the position of Caesar on the Ides of March. Could you have seen it coming? Could you have moved first, striking the balance between patience and preemption? This is not paranoia. It is strategic realism. It is the mindset that turns vulnerability into opportunity, that converts the treachery of others into the framework for your own supremacy. So, I ask you again, do you still believe in loyalty as a shield? Or will you recognize it as the illusion it has always been? When you see your allies not as friends, but as instruments whose strings you must anticipate, you step onto the path of true power. But beware, the path is lonely, and clarity comes at the cost of comfort. And if you thought that understanding betrayal was enough, wait until we examine the next principle: how to cultivate self-reliance so absolute that no knife, whispered conspiracy, or act of deception can touch your ascendancy. Do you understand the power of standing alone? Not as an abstract concept, not as some noble fantasy of independence, but as a weapon precise, unyielding, and sharp as a dagger. Self-reliance is not comfort, it is armor. It is the single most potent form of defense and offense in a world where allies are often absent and trust is a mirage. Look to the annals of history. Alexander the Great did not ascend to dominion because of the loyalty of his companions. He commanded because he relied on his vision, his intellect, his instincts. When his generals questioned him, when his troops hesitated, he acted alone. And in that solitude of decision, greatness was forged. Can you grasp that? True power is not shared, it is seized. It is held close, within the mind and the hands of the one willing to act where others falter. Psychologists will tell you that humans are social creatures, that we seek validation, connection, and support. And yet, paradoxically, these same creatures, when pressed, will abandon, betray, or manipulate. The lesson is not cruel, it is inevitable. Dependence on others introduces uncertainty. Dependence is a form of weakness disguised as necessity. Ask yourself, if you were the sole arbiter of your destiny, would you hesitate? Would you allow hesitation to remain when every choice shapes survival, power, and influence? Consider the great tacticians of old, the generals, the emperors, the rulers who carved kingdoms from chaos. They cultivated self-reliance not merely as a mindset, but as an arsenal. Napoleon, walking alone through the battlefield, carried the weight of victory in his decisions. He calculated every maneuver, every risk, without waiting for counsel that might delay, dilute, or betray. When you internalize such mastery, hesitation disappears, fear of abandonment evaporates. You become a fortress unto yourself, impervious to the wavering loyalties around you. But mastery of self-reliance is not merely action, it is foresight. It is the ability to anticipate need, to prepare resources, to anticipate deception before it occurs. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the mind, disciplined and undistracted by external forces, achieves serenity in the midst of chaos. Do you achieve serenity, or do you flinch when your allies stumble, when their promises falter? To rely on another is to gamble with every aspect of your ambition. To rely on yourself is to own certainty in a world designed to betray. Observe your own environment. Who depends on your mercy? Who covets your resources? Who speaks of loyalty while their thoughts dwell on opportunity? In mastering self-reliance, you no longer allow these external currents to dictate your course. You become the source of your own strength, the architect of your strategy, the unseen hand guiding events, while others quarrel, doubt, or conspire. Can you see it? The freedom, the terrifying clarity of solitude. This is the battlefield where power resides. This is where empires are quietly won by those who refuse to lean. Yet, self-reliance is not isolation. It is control. It is the recognition that the mind, disciplined and independent, surpasses the power of armies when uncertainty clouds judgment. Leonardo da Vinci once noted that the mind that works alone achieves depth no crowd can force. And in that depth, you find something far more valuable than friends, allies, or applause. You find inevitability. The inevitability of action. The inevitability of ascendance. But beware, self-reliance is a double-edged sword. To stand alone is to invite challenge, to be observed, envied, and tested. Those who see your independence will seek to undermine it, to force reliance where none exists. Here, strategy must meet resolve. You cannot falter, you cannot doubt. Your strength must appear inexhaustible because it is cultivated from within. So, I ask you now, do you allow your power to be contingent on the whims of others? Or do you claim it as your birthright, cultivated within, unshakable, and prepared for every contingency? Can you carry the weight of your ambition alone, without compromise, without apology? When you master self-reliance, you hold the leverage that no alliance can offer, and no betrayal can remove. And if you believe that understanding self-reliance is sufficient, the next step will challenge you further. For it is not enough to act alone, you must also learn the art of calculated isolation, of using solitude not as punishment, but as a weapon of precision. The question is, will you be ready when the world finally steps aside, revealing the battlefield is yours alone? Do you fear being alone? Or do you understand that true power often resides in the spaces others abandon? Isolation is not exile, it is strategy. It is the quiet laboratory where plans are tested, weaknesses are observed, and the mind sharpens into a weapon. To move among the crowd is to reveal your position, your intentions, your vulnerabilities. To withdraw deliberately is to see without being seen, to strike without warning, to act with surgical precision when opportunity presents itself. Consider the example of Napoleon Bonaparte. He often secluded himself in quiet chambers, reviewing maps, analyzing reports, contemplating the movements of generals who believed themselves indispensable. Alone, he was invincible. In company, he was merely constrained by the opinions, fears, and ambitions of those around him. Isolation granted him clarity, an advantage so profound that even the largest armies could not anticipate the swiftness and ingenuity of his maneuvers. Do you grasp the lesson? The world obeys the one who thinks apart from it. Isolation is the stage upon which the mind becomes sovereign. Psychologists call it reflection. Strategists call it power. When you remove the noise, the chatter of advisors, the pressure of peers, the subtle manipulations of supposed allies, you are left with the truth. The terrain of reality is unchanging, but perception clouds it. Alone, you perceive patterns others miss. Alone, you anticipate betrayal, opportunity, and risk with unnerving accuracy. And yet, most flee solitude, fearing it as if it were punishment, not the forge of dominion it truly is. Even in ancient Rome, emperors understood this. Augustus retreated frequently from the pomp of court life to chambers of study and counsel with few trusted confidants. There, he assessed the ambitions of senators, measured the loyalty of soldiers, and devised policies that would bend the empire to his will. In isolation, he saw what others could not. He saw weakness. He saw greed. He saw openings. Can you see it? The absence of companions is not a handicap. It is the sharpest advantage. And yet, isolation must be calculated. To vanish is not enough. You must vanish with purpose. Observe your rivals while concealing your presence. Withdraw not to escape, but to position yourself for action. Leonardo da Vinci worked in solitude, not to hide, but to create knowledge no patron or rival could anticipate. The quiet of his workshop became a reservoir of advantage, a vault of innovation waiting to be unleashed. Can you cultivate such a reservoir? Can you endure the stillness long enough to convert it into supremacy? There is also a psychological edge. When others perceive you as a part, they underestimate you. They speak freely, reveal strategies, and betray intentions in ways they would not if your gaze were present. Isolation allows you to see their hands, to learn their weaknesses, and to design interventions that exploit them without ever revealing your own position. It is the silent battlefield where thought becomes the deadliest weapon, and your adversaries, unwittingly, supply the ammunition. Yet beware. Isolation is a double-edged sword. Too much detachment invites suspicion, fear, or even attack. The world does not easily forgive the one who is unreadable. Therefore, balance is key. Appear engaged enough to avoid premature challenge, but remain separate enough to preserve your clarity. Walk among the crowd as a shadow. Observe as a predator. Strike only when certainty is yours. So, I ask you, can you endure the stillness, the quiet observation, the absence of applause, knowing that the mind you cultivate in solitude will outmatch every alliance, every rival, every fleeting loyalty? Can you wield isolation as a sword, rather than suffer it as a punishment? Those who do not understand this remain prisoners of noise, of opinion, of the fragile loyalty of others. Those who master it become architects of outcomes, unseen yet in command. And now, if you have embraced the necessity of calculated isolation, you are ready to confront the next truth: the exploitation of human weakness. For all the clarity solitude provides, the world remains populated by men and women driven by fear, greed, and pride. The next step is to turn their predictability into opportunity and their frailty into your instrument. The question is, when the world lays itself bare, will you strike or hesitate? Do you see the patterns in human behavior, or do you blindly trust in their promises? Every mind has predictable flaws. Fear, greed, pride, these are constants, immutable as the tides. The wise strategist does not deny them. He studies them, maps them, and wields them as tools. To exploit human weakness is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is understanding the laws of nature applied to the realm of power. Consider the Medici, masters of Florence, who rose not by brute force alone, but by understanding the ambitions and vanities of every rival. They manipulated marriages, whispered suspicions, and fanned the smallest sparks of envy into flames that consumed their enemies' unity. The weak become instruments when you perceive their desires and fears with precision. Can you see the lesson? Power is granted not by brute strength, but by observation and cunning. Psychologists confirm what history demonstrates. Humans are predictably irrational when their emotions are triggered. Fear causes hesitation, pride blinds judgment, and desire distorts loyalty. If you understand this, you gain an advantage immeasurable. Look around your own world. Who is desperate to please? Who craves recognition? Who believes themselves invulnerable, while secrets and ambitions surround them like invisible knives? Each is a lever. Each is a tool waiting to be applied. Even Caesar understood this. He knew that conquest was not won solely through legions, but through manipulation of men's hearts. Brutus, Cassius, the senators, he observed their ambitions, their insecurities, their pride. And yet, they underestimated him because he concealed his perception. The one who sees others' weakness without revealing it holds all the cards. The question is, can you see it? Can you discern the unspoken desires that will guide their actions before they even realize them themselves? Exploitation of human weakness is not crude or chaotic. It is precise, deliberate, and patient. Consider the use of flattery. The proud will reveal secrets when stroked. The envious will act rashly when provoked. The fearful will comply when threatened subtly, never knowing the hand that moves them. Every word you speak, every gesture you make, is a potential tool of leverage if your mind is trained to perceive the hidden currents beneath social interaction. Are you attuned to these currents, or are you swept away by them like so many others? Even in modern history, the lesson remains. Winston Churchill, surrounded by allies whose opinions often conflicted, understood how to exploit weaknesses and ambitions to maintain cohesion and achieve objectives. He rewarded ambition selectively, played rivals against each other, and ensured that the missteps of others became his instruments of influence. Every weakness he observed became a lever to secure his power and further his strategy. Could you wield such foresight? Could you transform opportunity from flaw? Yet beware. Exploitation requires subtlety. The blunt hand of coercion invites resistance and rebellion. You must be a surgeon, not a marauder. Understand the human psyche, probe its vulnerabilities, and act where it cannot resist, yet leave the illusion of choice intact. The manipulations that succeed are those invisible to the manipulated. Power thrives in the shadows of perception. Do you have the patience to wait until the moment is right, to strike where advantage is absolute? And let us not forget, exploiting weakness is also a mirror. Observe your own flaws. Where are you vulnerable? Where do fear, pride, or desire influence your choices? To master others, you must first master yourself, or your adversaries will use your weaknesses against you with the same precision you hope to wield against them. Self-awareness is the quiet foundation beneath every calculated strike. Without it, manipulation becomes folly, and strategy crumbles. So, I ask you, will you perceive human weakness as many do, with frustration and complaint? Or will you perceive it as it truly is, an arsenal of opportunity, a map of influence, a tool for solitary victory? When you understand the patterns, when you anticipate their reactions, when you guide their choices without them knowing, you become unstoppable. And yet, knowledge alone is insufficient. Observation without detachment is vanity. To fully harness these truths, you must also learn the next principle: cold emotional control. Only when you temper desire and fear within yourself can the manipulation of others achieve absolute precision. The question is, will you temper your own heart, or will it betray you even as you seek to exploit theirs? Do you allow emotion to rule your decisions, or do you wield it as a tool, a controlled flame that illuminates strategy rather than consuming it? Emotional control is not mere stoicism. It is power. It is the silent authority that allows you to act when others falter, to strike when others hesitate, to command without appearing to command. Without it, even the cleverest plan collapses under the weight of fear, desire, or anger. Consider the fate of Marcus Licinius Crassus. Ambitious beyond measure, yet blinded by pride, he faced the Parthians at Carrhae. Panic replaced calculation. Emotion replaced strategy. One misstep, one rash decision, and his legions were annihilated. Contrast this with Caesar, who, even when betrayed, surrounded by chaos and conspiracy, maintained composure. He read the environment, he anticipated the moves of men driven by fear and envy, and he responded with precision. Which path do you wish to follow: the impulsive, the reactive, the predictable, or the deliberate, the calculated, the untouchable? Psychology tells us that emotions cloud judgment. Fear narrows perception. Anger distorts logic. Desire overrides prudence. And yet, Humans are predictable in their emotional impulses. If you can master your own, you gain a vantage point from which all others are visible, all others manipulable. Can you watch as others rage, as others panic, and remain unmoved, assessing every opportunity their emotional chaos provides? This is the battlefield of mastery. This is where victory belongs to the one who refuses to succumb. Even in modern history, leaders have thrived through emotional mastery. Winston Churchill, facing the Blitz, did not collapse under terror nor allow despair to infect his command. His calm steadied a nation. His measured decisions turned panic into organized resistance. Emotional control is contagious in leadership. Those who wield it instill order, obedience, and trust not through love or friendship, but through certainty and fear of absence. Can you harness such influence without sentiment interfering? But emotional control is not suppression. It is direction. It is the conscious choice to allow calculated responses, not instinctive reactions. Napoleon Bonaparte, on countless battlefields, never allowed anger at insult or loss to dictate maneuvers. He converted rage into decisive movement, hesitation into foresight, desire into relentless strategy. This is the skill you must cultivate. The ability to feel without being ruled, to understand without attachment, to act without the distortions of passion. Observation is critical. Watch how fear compels obedience. See how pride blinds judgment. Understand how desire drives betrayal. And then ask, how will you remain untouched? Emotional control is armor against manipulation, leverage against chaos, and clarity in a world designed to mislead. You will encounter allies who tremble, enemies who bristle, rivals who scheme, all guided by untempered emotion. Can you remain a calm hand in a storm of frenzy? That is the difference between the transient and the unstoppable. Even intimacy and friendship are tests of emotional mastery. To act too quickly, to reveal too much, to react in anger or envy, is to surrender leverage. The wise know that restraint confers power. The fool confuses loyalty with freedom, empathy with weakness. Every reaction you restrain, every temptation you resist, every insult you transform into observation is a step toward invulnerability. So, I ask you, can you bear the silence within yourself while the world rages outside? Can you let fear, envy, and desire guide others while you navigate with certainty? Emotional control is the unseen force that elevates the solitary strategist above the crowd. Without it, isolation is vulnerability. With it, isolation becomes supremacy. And now, if you believe mastery of your own mind and emotions is sufficient, you are only halfway along the path. Knowledge without execution is vanity. To convert control into dominance, you must learn the final principle: solo ascendancy. The art of consolidating power alone, of transforming every weakness of others into your advantage, and of claiming the throne of your environment without allies, without compromise, and without apology. The question remains, will you act when the opportunity arises, or will hesitation betray you, as it betrays so many who believe themselves prepared? The next step is where clarity becomes conquest, and the solitary strategist becomes untouchable. Have you mastered solitude, self-reliance, observation, the manipulation of human weakness, and emotional control? If so, you stand on the precipice. The final principle is not theory, it is execution. Solo ascendancy is the culmination of strategy, the moment where preparation, cunning, and clarity converge. It is the act of claiming power alone, unassisted, unchallenged, and absolute. But tell me, are you prepared to be alone at the summit? Consider Alexander the Great. His conquests were not merely the result of armies, nor the loyalty of generals. Many coveted his position, many envied his rise, and yet he acted decisively, alone in vision, interpreting every movement of friend and foe with unmatched precision. When others hesitated, he seized opportunity. When allies faltered, he adapted. Victory belongs to those who do not rely on approval, nor wait for consensus. Do you understand that the apex is not shared? It is claimed by the one who refuses dependency. History repeats itself with frightening regularity. Napoleon, again, illustrates the same truth. The armies under his command were vast, yet his decisions were his alone. No council of generals could match his foresight. No coalition of advisors could anticipate the rapidity of his maneuvers. He trusted only his own judgment, honed through isolation, discipline, and relentless observation. This is the essence of solo ascendancy. Absolute agency, tempered by experience, executed without hesitation. Psychology provides insight into why this is necessary. Humans are inherently unreliable. Dependence introduces compromise. Trust invites betrayal. Alliances, by their nature, dilute power because they multiply interests. The one who commands alone holds purity of purpose, clarity of action, and freedom from the errors of others. Ask yourself, would you rather rise with compromise or ascend with certainty? Would you risk betrayal or act where only your will dictates outcomes? To achieve ascendancy, one must consolidate all advantages. Knowledge, timing, and perception are weapons. Every weakness in others is a lever. Every misjudgment is an opportunity. Sun Tzu noted that victory is achieved by knowing both yourself and your enemy. Solo ascendancy requires knowing them better than they know themselves, and acting before their own ambitions awaken. Are you prepared to move with such precision, so that even the most cunning cannot anticipate your path? Even modern examples bear this lesson. Steve Jobs, in his solitary vision, redefined industries. He trusted few, observed deeply, and acted decisively when others hesitated. His ascendancy was solitary, not because he rejected collaboration entirely, but because he filtered influence through his own rigor and foresight. Those who rely too heavily on consensus achieve mediocrity. Those who act alone, with calculated mastery, achieve legend. Yet, solo ascendancy is not mere independence. It is synthesis. It combines the lessons of solitude, emotional control, and the exploitation of weakness into a single, coherent force. To act alone is not to act recklessly, but to act with precision, informed by all observation. To ascend without allies is not to disregard the world, but to manipulate it through knowledge, timing, and the subtle currents of human behavior. Can you integrate everything you have learned? The patience, the observation, the control into action so seamless it appears effortless, inevitable even. Beware, however, the final trap, arrogance. The solitary victor is vulnerable only to self-deception. Pride can blind, ambition can outrun strategy, and overconfidence can invite disaster. Even the most disciplined mind must continually test itself, question its assumptions, and remain vigilant. Solo ascendancy is mastery, but mastery is maintained only through relentless self-scrutiny. Can you endure the solitude at the top, knowing that every misstep is yours alone to bear? So, I ask you now, are you prepared to stand where others cannot? To claim authority not shared, to act decisively when no one else dares, to convert every weakness in the world into leverage for your singular ascent? This is the ultimate test, to turn isolation, observation, and strategy into undeniable supremacy. Those who succeed will not merely survive, they will dominate, untouchable in clarity, ruthless in execution, and sovereign in consequence. And when you reach this summit, understand this: there is no applause, no validation, no companionship that defines power. There is only the cold, relentless reality of influence and control. Will you embrace it? Or will the weight of solitude the responsibility of absolute agency, finally unseat you. The final truth awaits. Power is not given, it is claimed. Alone, power is seldom granted, it is seized. Silently, strategically, without witness. Those who rule with visibility are always vulnerable. Those who act through subtlety, through observation, through manipulation of desires and fears, these are untouchable. Have you seen how the ambitious falter when they rely on loyalty? When they reveal their plans too soon? When emotion clouds judgment? You now know the truth. Control others without their knowledge, and you command not just action, but thought, expectation, and consequence itself. It is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is mastery of the predictable flaws in human nature, turned into levers for your ascendancy. Ask yourself, will you remain a pawn, reacting to the chaos of others, or will you act as the silent hand that shapes it? Comment below with the tactics you will apply. Share your reflections on power, manipulation, and strategy. Subscribe to sharpen your mind further. Share this knowledge for those who understand it. The world bends. For those who ignore it, it crushes. Mastery waits. Will you claim it?